Prova 1, 2, mi senti? Prova 1, prova 2, mi senti? Prova, prova. 1, 2. Good morning. On behalf of the Department for Agricultural Development of the Sicilia region.
Yeah, it's from Italian into English.
In English. Parlo un po' italiano, ma non troppo.
So we can start our workshop on Sicilian dried fruit, organized in collaboration between the Department of Agriculture and Productive Activity for the Sicilian region. The topic has been chosen because for Sicily it represents a very important sector. So we would like to analyze in depth and to see the size of this sector. I have the pleasure to communicate that this workshop is broadcast live in streaming on www.springsicilia.it. This workshop will be visible also in Piazzetta Sicilia, in the northern cardo of Expo. But the most important aspect is that all the proceedings, the events which we have been organizing in the last 2 weeks will be part of a big will be part of another event which is going to take place in October. We will have 18 tables in which we will tell our companies all the inputs which have been given during our workshops, and because starting from this we will publish the strategic lines which we hope could be part of the print strategy 2015-2018. We will establish a 3-year plan, and this plan is the basic plan for the investment of 3.4 measure of pure phaser. So all the promotional activities which are related to what we are discussing. This initiative is important to understand the importance of your presence here today. So I am sure that the speakers will be able to better describe the guidelines, the lines concerning the sector. So I wish you a fruitful morning and the town councillor to productive activities is already in Milan and he will join us in a few minutes. You must conclude by 1:20. We apologize, but we have a busy schedule because at 1:30 we must go to the Bio-Mediterranean cluster, which, as you know, is the other part, the other area where a Sicilian region is present in terms of products, because there are not only the words and the technical interventions, but there is also the possibility to taste in an area which is close to our area, the Mediterranean area, our products. Then at 2:30 there will be after lunch another event in the auditorium for the event on cereals, which is another event which is following the event on dried fruit. We will finish by 6:30. At 6:30 with another event on another important topic in the auditorium concerning Mediterranean borders. You know, there is a big debate, a huge debate on immigration at the moment. Other Italian regions will be involved, other countries of the Mediterranean areas will be involved, and we hope that an integration dialogue, a collaboration dialogue could be established. Afterwards, there will be a show in Piazzetta Sicilia, and we will conclude our day at Biocluster with a ceremony in which the commissioners of all Mediterranean countries at the Expo will participate. So, as you know, as you see, this event is very, very busy. So, can you repeat the streaming? The website is the regional spot for internationalization, www.sprintsicilia.it. It is already live. So I give the floor to Mr. Guarashi, who is going to coordinate our workshop. Thank you. You need a microphone for the streaming. So there is no sound in the hall, but it is just for the streaming. Thank you. So we can start our workshop. Before starting, I would like to welcome you all on behalf of our town councillor to agriculture, Mrs. Barresi. We have already said a lot, so in order to start our workshop, I will be your moderator. Maybe I will have the most negative part because I will ask you to stick on the time at your disposal because there are many speakers today. I think everyone has 10 or 12 minutes for your presentation. So welcome everybody, and I wish you a fruitful day for this day, which is very interesting, especially for dried fruit. So let's change a bit the schedule because Mr. Ferrantello from Sicilian region will conclude the workshop. He will give the conclusions at the end of the workshop. And I give the floor to Professor Giulia Marino from the University of Palermo, who's going to talk about dried fruit in Sicily between quality, tradition, and innovation. Good morning, everyone. My name is Giulia Marino. I will talk about dried fruit in Sicily from 3 points of view: innovation, tradition, and quality. Starting from the concept of quality, which is always associated with agricultural production. From an historical and geographical point of view, scusi, può alzare la voce perché devo tradurre e non la sento. Ha ricevuto nel corso del tempo? No, il microfono comunque non entra. è solo per lo streaming. So from a geographical point of view, the position inside the Mediterranean area, where along the years many people entered by bringing plants and important cultures which are part of the productive quality. The features, the climate features of the island, they are very variable, and they have allowed the different species to adjust and to differentiate by giving rise to a huge amount of products in dried fruit, but also in other products. So if we do a general overview, there are almost all types of dried fruit in Sicily with different entities, and thanks to the quality of our products today, even if our productions are not similar to the Californian ones, we are able to have an important space in the market. So we have important organolactic and qualitative products. The pistachio is sold a lot. The cultivar, the white cultivar, is the one we cultivate, and we have extracted the chlorophyll in the fruits, and our product, compared to the one produced in California, has more important qualities. In realtà se i relatori possono mettersi dall'altro lato in modo che li guardo, perché se lei si gira non sento più nulla, quindi se riesce a mettersi da quel lato, sì. Scusate però. So this very high content in chlorophyll turns into a different feature of the product that can be included in a market which is different from the Californian cultivars. The Californian pistachio is sold as a snack, but we transform it in products which can be sweet products and salty products, and so it can be sold and has its own markets. When I analyzed the concept of tradition, I had doubts concerning the point of view from which I had to start. So tradition must be a strength of our productions rather than a weakness. It depends on the point of view from which we analyze the concept of tradition. This concept of tradition is negative. Today we cannot believe to handpick dried fruit, but it is linked to a tradition which must be overcome. It is not possible to bear it from an economic point of view in order to have a convenient, economically convenient production. This is not sustainable. The natural drying of pistachio, which requires more workforce than a mechanic drying, and so there are risks. The product becomes not homogeneous, and there will be different problems. When we talk about tradition, this must be a strength for Sicily. Especially we must end the chain of dried fruit in our region, because this is something which is due to the cultural background of our history, which must be promoted in order to open different outputs in the market, outlets in the market. So this is an important part which will be combined with quality in order to improve our quality. Innovation is something which is not associated with the concept of agriculture, because when we do it, we have some troubles. Even if we are all ready to use iPhones and the technology, when we use innovation to agriculture, there are important issues at different levels. It is something which will counteract tradition and will make it become a strand of the production. Today we can monitor the the status of a plant through a computer. We can evolve compared to a similar situation, which cannot be the only productive system of Sicily. In fact, most of dried fruit is present in territories which are not appropriate to. As you can imagine, it is impossible to make such a mechanization. It is impossible to irrigate. Here, collection is done every 2 years, and the production is not appropriate to meet the needs of the market. This is a spontaneous product which has a great value, but here we can see that it is difficult to enter these areas. This is summertime, and then there are some specialized areas in Sicily. There are different realities, both for pistachio and almond, especially in the hinterland of Sicily, the area of Agrigento. There is a special irrigation in these areas. These are some experiments which we carried out in Caltanissetta. In 3 years of irrigation with not much water, we can reduce the fall of leaves at the end of the season of pistachio plants as a defense mechanism against the drought. We can reduce the fall of the drop of bud, and so there are many important consequences on production. Here we can see the crop density, that is the number of fruits per squared surface. So with a small amount of water, we have seen that with small amount of water, we can have an increase by 18, and so an average of 30 in the areas which are irrigated. It is useless to talk about the mechanical harvest in a dried fruit area, especially from economic point of view. Prices are reduced, so the collection is the most important, the most expensive part. This already takes place in Sicily. So there are some machines which are used. This is an example of almond tree, which is harvested mechanically with a special machine. We have 2 operators, and we are able to harvest the fruits in 20 seconds. But to carry out such a harvest, we must have a rational approach. For example, in the case of pistachio trees, the importance to use new transplants, like new grafts, like the ones used in America, make it possible. And here we can see the sides, the terbento, and then we have the American hybrid on the right, so we can reduce the unproductive periods of the production of pistachio. And then as for the mechanical drying, it has a huge advantage from economic point of view for the reduction of the workforce necessary for manual drying, but also the product is dried in a more homogeneous way. So at the end, if we analyze the 3 main concepts of this discussion, that is quality, and we already have a huge quality in our heritage, genetic heritage of the different species, of the different varieties. Quality must be the basis for our production, but it must be combined with an increase in innovation of productive system that can be the means to bring the big agricultural tradition outside Sicily and to improve our productions at international level. Thank you. Well, thank you, Mrs. Marino. I believe the most important point of this discussion is the last slide that gives the idea of the challenge we have to deal with, because the three parameters, quality and tradition, can hardly coexist. It is clear that the Sicilian reality is a reality which gives an idea of the tradition of this product. But Mrs. Marino has also given some indications of be the results with the introduction of irrigation, for example, which could improve production. So now we give to Professor Di Stefano from the University of Catania, who's going to deal with evidences from Sicilian biodiversity. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to intervene on such an important topic, and for giving me the opportunity to show what we do in the Department of Agricultural Food and Environment of the University of Catania. I'm the director of this department. As for this topic, I will skip some considerations, general considerations, which I had prepared, and we will focus on issues concerning the species, the main species in the production of dried fruit. So this is a kind of specification when we talk about biodiversity. In our case, we refer to agrobiodiversity, that is the integration of the different species which were introduced in our environment and which along the years found their interaction with the environment and led to a diversification, an adjustment to the conditions in which they settled. As my colleague said, the historical, environmental, geographical, and cultural considerations see Sicily as a region which is at the center of the Mediterranean area, which has been the subject of several dominations at the center of the commercial routes, and also for the macro environments, as for orography and the different climatic features which create some micro environments starting from the sea to the mountain. And so there are different types of soil, from volcanic to other types of soil, and so vegetable species had to adjust to the different conditions. So this has led to a great diversification for all fruits, especially dried fruit, especially the almond, which is a species which was introduced by Greeks and which has a long history. So it is a very important job. Work has been carried out in collaboration with the Sicily region, for the conservation and improvement of these genetic sources, because it is important not to lose these varieties, because every variety has a history of adjustment, and when we lose it, we lose our historical memory. Another consideration concerns the material, which is the fruit of secular interactions with an environment which adjusted to marginal situations. And so, for example, difficult lands to cultivate because of the drought, for example. So there are some bioagronomic features which can be important to improve the genetics of these plants, and we can use bioagronomic features to for the genetic improvement and to have new varieties. Of course, this is a heritage which must be studied and must be characterized from a morphological point of view in order to avoid erosion and loss of the material itself. So if we start with the almond tree, which in Sicily characterizes the most difficult areas to cultivate, differently from oranges. Almond has a history which dates back half 17th century up to the end of the 19th century, when there was a publication by Bianca in which 700 varieties were described. So many varieties characterize the Sicilian heritage. These are slides about the importance of the production in Italy. Sicily, in Italy, together with Puglia, is the region where almond is cultivated a lot. And of course, we are referring to the provinces of Agrigento, Caltanissetta, and Siracusa, even if it is grown in all provinces. This is an interesting study in which you can see that from the origin centers, different populations are differentiated, and Sicily is at the center of the exchange of this material. And also in this work, almond is seen as the center, having the main diversification in the area of the Mediterranean. An important work is the work carried out by Sicily region in collaboration with the University of Palermo, where a collection field has been created. There are 276 varieties. A colleague has characterized from a morphological and agronomic point of view all the varieties. The work carried out by the University of Catania has been to characterize the plants by using molecular markers. Why? Because with molecular markers we can study how it is possible, what are the routes through which almond came to Sicily, and it has more practical applications because a molecular marker makes it possible to assess the possible presence of homonymous and so different varieties which are called with the same under the same name and vice versa. So the first surprising result is that if we analyze in black, we have the Sicilian varieties. So we see that all varieties showed a genetic variability. So just on one sample, 100 Sicilian varieties, they have a different genetic heritage. If we compare them with international varieties and with Puglia varieties, apart from this cluster, from this group where the international varieties are located, those which come from California, the other variety, Sicilian variety, mix with the Puglia varieties, Spanish varieties, and the varieties of other countries of the Mediterranean Sea. So you can see that the material which came to Sicily probably has genetic bases which are common to the other Mediterranean countries. Another work we carried out in the characterization to promote the products and to make it available to the scientists all over the world concerns the self-compatibility. We analyzed the genetic compatibility of S allele, and we found 6 alleles which characterize the Sicilian varieties. Some alleles have small differences from a genetic point of view, and others have big differences. The importance is that with the self-compatibility framework and depending on the alleles, we can better identify the association between the pollinator and the plant which will produce the fruit. Another application which concerns both markers and the use of S allele as for the genetic differences concerns the molecular traceability. Through these studies, we identified some differences, genetic differences, which can characterize the Sicilian almond, and so we can trace the raw material and to distinguish them from other almonds in order to protect the Sicilian product. Another species which has been introduced, and of course we are talking about areas which are difficult to grow. In general, dried fruit is placed in marginal areas, but it has an important role as for the characterization of these environments, the environmental protection, and this concerns hazelnut tree, which has stable surfaces, but the production has decreased because many of these areas have been abandoned because the yield is low. Even if new areas, industrialized areas, are being implemented with a more rational approach. As for the spread of the new areas, we are using varieties which are present all over the country, which are very prestigious. And as for the varieties, in Sicily it is represented by two varieties. One is the one related to production, that is Carafara, which has been identified as a cultivar population. Actually, inside these varieties, there are different elements which have which have flowers in different period of the year, and so this make it possible. This allows for the formation of the fruit. The Carafara is the one which is used for the production of selvaggiola, which is considered the pollinator. Some studies have been carried out from an agronomic and morphological point of view of the plant. Different aspects have been taken into account, and a molecular characterization has been done, which confirmed that there is no big variability in the different elements which characterize the cultivar Carafara. Of course, this work is important also to promote the growing in the specialized environment of hazelnut tree, because they can have applications in different commercial areas. And we also included another plant which is different to place, which is the carob tree, and it is difficult to place it in other sectors. The carob tree is very important because it characterizes from an environmental, landscape and productive point of view the new interest related to the use of flowers coming from the seed of carob tree. And in some areas of Sicily, especially in the provinces of Siracusa and Ragusa, it plays an important role. The interest for carob tree is quite new. As for the potential use of of both the seed and the fruit of carob, and the role which the carob has in forestation, and the use of the renaturalization of environments, because it is a plant which adjusts in very extreme conditions. So it characterizes the landscape. The cultivars are not many. In Sicily, some molecular studies identified some synonyms. Carob is very heterogeneous as for biology, and as for the morphological and physiological features. Of course, the propagation happens through the seed. We have several shapes and several morphological features. You see also the different uses. It is a plant which is becoming very important as a decoration of environments and houses. So we can see the carob tree both near the sea and on the mountains. It adjusts very well, and diversity is found not only in the shape of the tree but also in the shape of the leaves. And as for the flowers, the flowers biology, it is considered quite a suffered biology because we have some feminine and masculine varieties. And we have also some hermaphrodite varieties. We started some studies at the University of Catania as for the yield of the seed. We compared the varieties which we created in our department, number 3, Ibla, in comparison with other varieties which are present in our territory. So you see fruits, seeds, the yield. As for the flower, of course, we have characterized, we have carried out a molecular characterization, and the results of the molecular analysis, on the basis of the results, we observed that these cultivars come from Italy, Spain, Turkey, Israel. The Italian cultivars in blue are grouped and so they separated. So we have special groups in separate countries. Also for the hermaphrodites, which based on literature, the entrance of hermaphrodite was due to the entrance of to the arrival of Spanish material. So the varieties in Sicily formed a single hermaphrodite cluster together with the Spanish varieties. Of course, from an agronomic point of view, these varieties have a lower production, so they can be important as for the association as potential pollinators in some areas with feminine cultivar.
Al di là della battuta siamo in perfetta sintonia. Tante volte credo di avere.
So you respect you use the time at your disposal. Thank you for this. Thank you for the data you gave us. I believe that what you said opens important perspectives, especially as for the characterization. And this leads to the fact that we need to give an importance to our product because it is a quality product, so it opens some perspectives from the point of view of controls. On the carob tree, I believe that carob represents our Sicily. There where we find carob, but also almonds, we can imagine the beautiful landscapes of Sicily. Now I give the floor to Mr. Cateno Ferreri, who's going to talk in his quality as president of APROMAS, Apromas is an acronym. Our wish is that this acronym, starting from now, can become very popular, because Apromas means Association of Producers of Almonds in Sicily. I think it represents the first important experience of association in Sicily, because it is at the basis of a brand, and there's always been something limited. But in this case, we have been able to do something for our Sicily and for our Sicilian farmers, and we have been able to put together all farmers in Sicily. So Mr. Ferrero is going to talk about development of a new productive approach in Sicily.
Buongiorno a tutti, grazie per l'occasione che mi state dando di poter esporre.
Thank you for the opportunity you gave me to explain to you what we have established in Sicily. I'm president of Apromas. Sicily region, for 3 years now, has created a team with the University of Catania and Palermo to identify the Sicilian varieties and to have an almond that can be traced in its origin. Why do we want to trace our product to distinguish it from the others? Because the almond which is produced in Sicily has some organoleptic features which are unique in the world. For example, the percentage of oil. The percentage of oil in Sicilian almonds never goes below 48% of the weight of almond, whereas the varieties which are grown in California never achieve 34%. So consequently, we have a very high quality product, both in terms of percentage of oil and polyphenols. Of course, the study which universities carried out is at the basis of everything. To distinguish our product, we need these markers. We know that our product is one of the best. In fact, at the beginning of the 20th century, the Sicilian almond was considered one of the best in the world, because Sicily was the main producers of almond at the beginning of the 20th century. Now, California represents 80% of the world market. 4% is represented by Spanish, and we have 2.2% of the world market. 2.2%. But it is a very high quality product. In fact, the most important bakeries request the Sicilian product, which is difficult to find. So we need to trace it and to enhance it. For this reason, together with the SOAT, which are centers established by Sicilian region to experiment together with the university. So together with the SOAT and the universities, we established an association, and we have established a guideline of production. This is called contrat d'œuvre in France. These guidelines are a tool which ensure the quality to the consumers, but set some limits for the production. It has not been difficult to organize, to define the production features, because we feel normal to produce with a traditional system that is having some regular areas using local material, and in the productive chain, conservation and drying, and the processing value is done with many family efforts, because the plant must undergo a lot of processes before being used. The production technique we have in Sicily, and so the harvest in the hottest time of the year, so during the summer, allows for for the plant to be protected from the diseases. In fact, our almond had never aflatoxins, which characterized the Californian almonds, for example. So I'd like to show you our almond. So I say our because it belongs to all Sicilians in all cities of Sicily. This is a Sicily with the symbol of Sicily, and at the center there is an almond tree. We are very small and we are working slowly because it's difficult to combine, to put together several people. It was not easy because, as our colleagues said, we have more than 700 varieties of almonds. We have different types of production, so everyone has his own opinion about the production. So almond of Sicily is a collective name, Mandorla di Sicilia, which will be controlled by the Regional Institute for Wines and Oils in Sicily. This certification will be the guarantee for the production. Why have we created this brand? To enhance the product from a remuneration point of view towards producers, because you must know that at production the product is not paid for the value that it has. So what are we doing? We are creating the brand, we are disseminating the news, we are aggregating many producers, and we would like to establish some marketing platforms. As for the varieties, we included all recognized Sicilian varieties, or if they are not recognized, there will be an agency, some technicians, some experts who will assess whether that almond is Sicilian. Other varieties which are present in Sicily for 25 years are also admitted. As for our goal, it's to let almond is to make almond be used as a real product, not only just as an essence. In Enna, in Caltanissetta, for example, we have areas not on marginal lands but on fertile lands where wheat and vegetables used to be grown, because these sectors which are now in crisis are being replaced by this other sector which is very productive. In 1 year the price of almond increased by 200%. So I show you what we have done together with the Sicilian region. We have created a video to describe the different phases of almond and the connection with the Sicilian reality, and we have also combined it with the tourist attractions and monuments we have in Sicily. You can go on the website www.mandorladisicilia.it. Some history, because almond is called Lux Greca, Greek nut, but most of all we must say that almond together.
Così gli antichi romani chiamavano la mandorla. La portarono in Sicilia i fenici di Grecia nel VI secolo a.C.
Of course, together with pistachios, these are two essences of a dried fruit which work together, even if almond was brought by Arabs and pistachio by Jews. So historically, there is a legend based on which almond was a princess who died of hunger, who starved because she was waiting for her prince from the war of Troy, and so this plant was formed when the prince came and he hugged the plant, developed flowers. The plant represents the passage from winter to spring. Almond represents another essence. It's called Proglussas amygdalis. It's the amygdala. But what is the amygdala? Amygdala represents also life and death. Amygdala, from a Jewish point of view, is an essence which is life, and outside there is death. What we see, if we look at the fruit, if we see if we see the shell of the fruit, it is dead outside, but it is live inside. So now this is no longer done, especially in the center of Sicily, where there are new areas financed by Sicilian region with irrigation and sub-irrigation, an underground irrigation which reduces transpiration with a lower consumption of water, and we have excellent yields. So almond is a tree which grows when it doesn't rain. In Sicily, we have a low rain percentage, but this plant has flowers in March, April, makes fruit in September, and in that period of time, no rain has fallen. So this is a plant which can grow in extreme areas. Here we can see some examples mechanized harvest. So it represents, from an economic point of view, one of the main features for which we must invest on the almonds. The data we saw, almost 50,000 hectares in Sicily, are Istat data, but we are going to update this data, because in the last 2 years, many areas, many plants are being established. In the area I know, almost 3,000 hectares of land are being established as for the production of almond. So here the humid part, external part is removed, and as we say, so we can see that the shell is used as food supplement for animals. As for the external skin, it is used as a fuel for the heating system, and after the and every year, after the pruning, the production of the branches is equal to 20 tons per hectare, and the fuel power of the tree is very high. So this product, which represents the biomass that we can use in the chain for the production of energy, could be used also. So you see, almond is used in its whole. In the skin, there are many salts together with fibers. So this is the skin, this is the husk, and so it is used for sheep. So this skin is also used as a supplement, as in food supplement. It is rich in fibers and mineral salts. Well, we can, based on these 3 words, which are the pillars of our dried fruit growing. So now I will have the floor.
Allora io ti tengo il
Ho messo 12 minuti. Allora, io qui subito vado avanti perché quando è arrivato su palinsesto, quando è arrivato su palinsesto, dico, c'era questa immagine, c'era una fotografia, non sapendo che cosa mettere, ho messo la mia fotografia. Non prendere per
So I put my photo. I'm sorry.
Era richiesta la tua foto.
Your photo was requested. We needed your photo. I saw other slides which didn't have the photo, so I will show you the experience of the collective brands in Sicily, and I'd like to start from far away, from the Decree 1204 of 4th October 2012, which approves for the first time the regional plan of dried fruit in Sicily on the basis of what had been done with the national plan for dried fruit in Italy. What is the objective? It defines some guidelines for the development of the sector, and of course it refers to all the different species, and so almond, pistachio, carob, nut, and hazelnut. And of course, the focus is on almond, pistachio, and hazelnut, and also carob. The funding is secured through the funds of Rural Development 2007-2013. Training and information. I don't want to repeat what has been said, but I would like to analyze the current situation. In the 50s and 40s, there was a boom in almond growing. This is the most critical point of the Sicilian almond growing. We had the best position in Italy, then we gradually reduced the production, and the productions of California and other countries, emerging countries such as Australia, have a ranking first. So the almond growing was just an expression of a landscape once. It had no value, no productive value. But then in the last few years, as Cateno Ferrari was saying, there was an awakening because we focused on quality.
Voglio dire anche questo, il paradosso.
The paradox. What is the paradox? Used almonds coming from abroad. In Italy, the national production can meet what I have just said. Today, we can say that there is a strong attention. Emerging countries such as China and India require a lot of almonds. And paradoxically, these requests coming from China and India makes us feel good. What does this mean? California, which had as its own, its main goal, European markets and other markets, now it's addressing these emerging countries. So it is living as in peace. In fact, our almond is starting to have very interesting prices. The objectives of the plan I've already described them. So we need to thank California, and so Mrs. Ferguson, who's representing California, you are leaving us in peace, you are giving us space. Because for many years our markets in our market, the main product came from California for many years. So what are the objectives of the plan? The creation of the Sicilian almond growing chain. We have finally combined production and marketing activity of information and communication to the chain operators. We are working on this objective, because this communication action, which is aimed at combining all our producers, at combining all operators who work in the chain, is a very difficult thing to do. And then another objective, support to companies. In the movie, we saw that now we are using the first machines for the mechanized harvest. So now we have several plants in Sicily where on one hand the product enters and on the other end peeled almond is go out. So support to companies. I believe that with the new rural development plan, we are focusing on the transfer of innovation. So I believe this will be one of the other objectives which we will be able to achieve. I will skip this slide. Second objective. A son of the second objective is the movie we have prepared. Also, the concept of the brand Mandorlo di Sicilia is something which has been established to promote quality, and to give an identity to the product. We have the movie was presented on other occasions in Tutto Food and in other events where we present the quality of the Sicilian product. Another thing we are carrying out is the creation of the roads of almond. This is a project which is being developed by a team of people all over Sicily. So I would like to thank the colleagues who are not here today, Mr. Vassallo from Campobello, Mr. Taglia from the operating section in Siracusa, Mr. Marra, me, and all the other friends who are with us today. So the roads of the almond is something which should start soon. So we have established an itinerary which includes the cities, the towns where almond growing is present and where the history and tradition of almond growing is present. This itinerary, so we are trying to create also an app so that the tourist can find this itinerary, can have indications on the things to see from a landscape and monumental point of view, and also the accredited certified bakeries which the museums related to almonds. For example, in Siracusa, I think in Siracusa or Noto, I don't remember, there is the Museum of Marzapane, which is one of the most ancient structures in which marzipan was processed. Why is it a brand, Mandorlo di Sicilia? Why is it a brand? The main function of the brand is to allow consumers to identify a product. So this establishes a trust between consumer and producer. This is an instrument which makes it possible to acquire new market shares. The brand is at the basis of the brand. There are some guidelines which represent the guarantee of the brand. The quality brand is a tool which is given to the companies which started a virtuous journey of association. The collective brand. Why have we established a collective brand? Using a brand which could have a European value, that is, a brand which stems from the known brands, DOP, GP, and so on, requires long times and some studies. But we wanted to give an identity to our product by using the Sicilian brand, which is known all over the world. So we decided to use a quick tool, which is the collective brand, which is ruled by legislative decree of 2005, number 30, the so-called Code of Industrial Property. It is a voluntary brand, private brand. There must be an owner of the brand, which in this case is the Association Producers Mandorlo di Sicilia. So for this reason, the association has been established first and then the brand. So let's see the details. In the case of almond, to give value to the Sicilian product. So we have already spoken about the figures. In Sicily, we have almost 47,000 hectares. We have two existing brands. One is Mandorla di Avola, so almond of Avola, which is a collective brand, and the other one is Mandorla di Noto, which is a slow food brand. So the marketed products represent 9% of the total. The consortium Mandorla di Avola groups a cooperative of producers, 30 producers, 10 companies for the processing of the raw material, 10 companies for the marketing of sweets, and so the bakeries which sell to the market the product which is already marketed with the brand Mandorla di Avola. The strands.
No, solo per staccarlo perché
Mi volevo soffermare semplicemente sul discorso che ha detto Cateno Ferreri.
So as Cateno Ferrari said, some studies were performed by the University of Catania, 204 milligrams out of 100 grams in Tuono, 221 milligrams out of 10 in a pizzuta d'avola. We're talking about polyphenols, 84 milligrams on 10 out of 100.
ora ci dirà la sua.
Here's why, at the end of 2013, Mandorla di Sicilia was born. The functional structure, there is an association of producers, a certifying body. We have chosen a public body, Istituto Regionale Vini e Oli di Sicilia, Regional Institute of Wines and Oils in Sicily, which will certify the product. There is a use regulation of the brand and guidelines. This is just a photo when Apromas was founded. These are the members of the association. This is the guidelines. So all varieties which are in Sicily, the traditional varieties, and also the pizzuta d'avola, Romana and Fascinello, and also Tuono, Genco, Filippo, Geo, Ferragnes, which come from Puglia, but are being grown in Sicily for 25 years now. The use of the brand, who can request it? We were talking about the chain. This can be requested by those who produce, those who market, and those who process. So almond in shell and not in shell. And the use of the brand can also be requested by bakery. So those who market sweets made with almond or other sweets can write produced with almonds of Sicily.
sito di cui si parlava
The
poco fa,
website
mandorladisicilia.it.
mandorladisicilia.it.
Credo di avere finito. Grazie
I
per
am
la
finished
vostra
and thank you for your attention.
Intanto grazie per la presentazione, visto che tu hai fatto
Thank
la
you for
relazione,
your
io ti faccio la
presentation.
moderatrice.
So I will be your moderator.
Il marchio no, è
The
particolarmente
brand is
interessante
particularly
perché in
interesting
un'ottica di
because
promozione
in
di questo settore
view
nuovo per dolce,
to
per
promote
esempio,
a
che
new
si
sector
pensa
such
di
as
poter fare
the
prossimamente
sweet,
associare appunto
which
bio,
we
che già
would
sono
like to
qui,
associate
questi
to
settori
food
che
and
vanno avanti da
bio,
3 anni hanno
which
raggiunto
have already grouped many companies, is very interesting. So it is interesting to talk about extended chain. So I suggest you, as you have said it several times, to give the floor to Mrs. Ferguson. If you want to give your presentation now, you can.
My presentation primarily focuses on pistachios as an example. For the three industries. So would you like me to give my presentation now?
As you desire. Sorry, Mrs. Ferguson, just to understand you better. Yes.
So I'm going to speak about why California's three major nut industries have been a success. I'm with the University of California, the Department of Plant Sciences, and I am a field scientist. Okay? This is other direct? Huh? Well, grazie. Okay. It's still not working. Oh, here? It's not on. We have three major nut crops in California. Here we go. Three major nut crops in California. Almonds, 413,000 hectares. We are first in world production. Walnuts, we only have 132,000 hectares. We are only third in world production. China is first, but we are first in quality. Pistachios have been the single most successful plant introduction to California in the 20th century. That's last century. We now have 112,000 hectares, and we are first in world production, though Iran has many more hectares. Okay. So I am going to focus primarily on pistachios in this presentation about why our nut crops have been so successful, because the story is really the same for all three. Just give you a little idea of pistachios. In the past 30 years, our acreage has steadily increased from bearing and non-bearing, but a very large increase in the last decade. Okay? The production has also increased, as you would expect if the acreage increased. But the very interesting thing is normal marketing rules, and this is quite true for almonds and walnuts. Normal marketing rules have not applied. Here you see production increasing, but even though we have a lot more pistachios, you still see the prices increasing almost by 100% here, from $1 a pound up to the last year. Some of our growers received over $4 a pound for in-shell split pistachios. It has been Really the same story for both walnuts and almonds in California. They are the most profitable tree crops now in California. So why has this happened for pistachios, for almonds, and for walnuts? These are really, in addition to just flat out good luck, these are the reasons for our success. It's been the climate, the water, the soils, the cultivars and rootstocks, which some we accessed, some we bred, the infrastructure of our industries, the high level of mechanization we have in all three crops. And here is one of the major keys, the cooperation of both the university and the federal research and extension services with grower organizations in walnuts, almonds, and pistachios that are all very active in both research and marketing. I'll go through these individually, but I'm going to use pistachios as the major example, okay? First of all, California, unlike Sicily, which is in the sea, our Central Valley was once an old sea. The Central Valley of California, where most of the pistachios, almonds, and walnuts are grown, pistachios, particularly down here, is an old seabed. As a result, it has very deep, even soils that make for good water extraction. It has soils, particularly for pistachios, that have high levels of boron and calcium content. And the soils are very even. They're not stratified, which makes root development much better. We have a subtropical climate. The mountains that ring this valley is only perhaps 10, 20, 30 meters above sea level, which makes it very hot. The mountains that ring it keep out the winter frosts, but we have sufficient chill for the chill that's needed for both almond, walnut, and pistachio flowers. We have very high heat units in the summer, almost 3,000 heat unit accumulation. I'm sorry, that's by the Fahrenheit system. I don't know it in the centigrade system. We have dry summers, no precipitation, which means that we don't have problems with pollination or with fungal foliar diseases. And we have good, strong soils with a high organic matter content. So, truthfully, this is just luck. Okay. The other thing that we have that's partially luck in California and partially the organization of our government is California, until recently, had water. The water you see in this concrete river, this artificial river, is water from snow. It's basically very clear water. It's the snow melt that's collected in dams and transferred throughout California in aqueducts. So until recently, as I'm sure you all know, California had excellent water for our tree crop, nut crop production. The other thing we had was we have good cultivars. Now, this, basically, we have to be honest, all our almond, all our pistachio, and all our walnut cultivars came from somewhere else. So we started our industry with accessions from other countries. We do now maintain a breeding program. This is the kind of, I'm just going to use pistachios as an example, that we like to produce. A naturally split, it splits within the shell, a clean shell, call that the California natural. We have rules against bleaching, and a nice intact integument on the nut. We process it primarily into a snack nut, as was noted in Juliana's presentation, for eating out of hand. But increasingly in California, we are now moving into an ingredient nut for pistachios. And in California, as you all know, the almonds have been the leaders in diversification of the different products they produce with their almonds and also walnuts. Okay? The other thing we have is an active rootstock collection. These 4 trees, the buds from these 4 trees for the top of the tree, the scion, all came from the same budwood stick. The only thing that's different and producing the difference in size and productivity is the different rootstock on the bottom. So we have also developed our rootstock collection as well as our variety collections. Okay? However, we do continue in walnuts, almonds, and pistachios to have active breeding programs, looking for different harvesting times, any effect of yield on quality, disease resistance, and in our rootstock breeding programs, rootstock resistance. Okay? We also have an exceedingly high level of mechanization in our tree nut crops. All our tree nut crops are micro-irrigated. They're irrigated often with increasingly with remote sensing technologies and with automated systems, and increasingly with plant-based sensing technology for the irrigation, not just soil-based. And increasingly, what we really hope to move into is drone sensing technology for tree water status. We have a high level of harvest in our mechanization in all of our tree nut crops. And we have a high level of mechanization in our pruning. So the three biggest costs, irrigation, harvest, and pruning, are primarily handled mechanically. Okay? Then here's the thing that has really probably set the United States apart from every other country in agriculture. Back in around the 1850s, one of our famous presidents, Abraham Lincoln, established the land-grant university system. Out of the land-grant university system was established to help the farmers, teachers, and mechanics of the developing United States. We were not a very sophisticated country then. And out of this grew what we call the agricultural extension model, where we have personnel both in our provinces or counties that deal directly with the farmers. They're called the Extension Service, and they are linked to the universities. So basically, the farmers can tell us their problems. It's our job to decide how to research the problem, how to not make it a site-specific problem. And then we go to the university and find the person to work with. Just to give you an example, right now I'm working with salinity of rootstock salinity tolerance in California. It developed because some of my farmers have highly saline soils now due to irrigation and lack of irrigation water. Basically, we formulated some long-term research trials, but at the university level, we are also working with the cellular localization of sodium to try and develop a better breeding program for stronger rootstocks. So our agricultural extension program basically defines the problems, has the university work on it, and then after we've developed solutions, we take the information back to the industry. Some of this research is funded by universities. It's funded by national grants from our federal government, but a lot of it is funded by the pistachio, almond, and walnut growers associations. They provide money for competitive research grants. Okay? We have very strong grower organizations. Here's an example of one, the American Pistachio Growers. These organizations now do their own marketing. Previously, we had an organization that marketed only California pistachios, but now we have several organizations that market them as their own brands. Okay? These organizations also do things like have websites with information for the growers, produce things like good agricultural practices manuals, and they do this development of their educational materials in cooperation with the universities. Okay? These organizations now have domestic advertising campaigns that appeal to what you can do with pistachios, plus letting people know how healthy they are. Same with walnuts, same with almonds. We cover a number of different types of venues, from lifestyle to food and wine to athletic to fitness. They have a very complete campaign. We also have global advertising campaigns through these organizations where we appeal to other countries, okay? And increasingly we use social media to let people know how good pistachios are. Okay? So these are all the reasons for success up to this point. I would say this is luck, and this is energy, and this is the support of the government in the United States. But now we're starting to move into another era with food. You know, basically people are beginning to question and expect more of their food. And in 2011, our President Obama signed into law what we call the Food Safety Modernization Act, which basically is another way of controlling food quality. Within this Food Safety Modernization Act, they have identified high-risk foods. For example, peanuts are a high-risk food due to aflatoxin. Well, pistachios and almonds, too, are classed as high risk because of the potential for aflatoxin. So there is basically now new rules about traceability. For example, in peanuts in the United States, if you get a jar of peanut butter, you can tell from that jar what field those peanuts came from. We'll be looking for that kind of traceability in pistachios. There's also, through the produce safety rules, institutions of GAP programs, good agricultural practice programs. This is where our organizations have been very active. The purpose of a GAP is to reduce risk of contamination, identifies the riskiest parts of any production operation, and develops the monitoring and the paperwork to support it. Okay. Okay. And then now the last and one of the two most recent factors that have really made nuts successful in California is in recent history there has been an incredible amount of research about the quality of nuts in the human diet. I'm just using pistachios as an example here, but this is an independent research study that basically points out that pistachios are nutrient-dense, heart-healthy, good fatty acid profile, protein, dietary fiber, potassium, so forth and so on, and the specifics. It's this kind of research that demonstrates the value of nuts in a diet that have basically been the most recent booster in the phenomenal success of nuts in California. We have attempted to capitalize on this campaign by not only showing that pistachios are good, but by starting to put this information into a form the public can understand. We don't want them to read the scientific article, but if they know they have as much protein as fish, as much fiber as broccoli, and as much potassium as the standard, a banana, and we can put this into a friendly form, and then, you know, when you want to sell something, you always have to have a story. You have to make people want to like and buy your product. So we try to do this by introducing our growers. They do this now in walnuts, in almonds, in pistachios. So we're taking the food safety, the nut health aspects into our advertising in a very friendly way that makes them identify with the people that produce the product. So, oh, this is totally over. Great. So our California nuts are successful because they've been proven, because we're able to produce them in a economical fashion, but they're also high quality, safe, and healthy. And then India and China have booming economies right now and have become big markets. Thank you.
Bene, grazie alla dottoressa Petterson.
So thank you, Professor Ferguson. Thank you, Professor Ferguson, for the very interesting presentation. I believe that we are sure that California must represent for us a model because there is an organization starting from the countryside to the final product communication and information. I liked what you showed about how the organizational structure makes reference to the farmer, to the grower who has the problem, and then there is the governmental agency that bring the problem to university, to research. So this is an important structure, and we lack this. So this is something missing in Sicily. So this is an important model for us, and we wish we could be able to establish the same structure also in Sicily. So now I give the floor to Mr. Palmeri, who's going to talk about the nutritional values of Sicilian almond and health properties. Thank you. Good morning. I put my photo also, so just like you. So I'm a physician. I've been dealing with nutrition and medicine, non-conventional medicine for many years, especially in the last few years. I was very interested in vegetarian and vegan diet. And my presence here, first of all, I would like to thank those who invited and involved me in this experience. And to me, this is the result of my commitment in the dissemination of the importance of almond, because for more than 20 years I've been recommending almonds to my patients every day. So they have identified me as the leading sponsor of almond. So in particular, I work in Palermo and Catania, and someone in Catania told me at 11 o'clock I take almond and somebody else takes almond, and maybe this person was at Mr. Palmeri's office. So I was the promoter of almond. I'm very happy to know that there is this association. This association has been established. It is important, in my opinion, that there is this commitment from the growers. Why are so obsessed with almond? Am I so obsessed with almond? Because by studying this product together with other colleagues, not only from Sicily but also from other part of Italy, we realized that this element has many features which are fundamental for our health. Almond, in my opinion, should develop more, not only in the bakery field, but also in the health and nutritional field, just as soy, because the features of almond, well, nuts must all be promoted. I'm the first one to recommend them, but especially almond. Almond the message I would like to give you and to give to my patients is that our modern diet is acidifying for our organism, for our body. We must keep a pH towards the alkaline, whereas our body is very acidified by what? By industrialized food, too much refined, too rich in sugars, too rich in salts, poor in fibers, in nutritionals. So these food that we eat every day, unfortunately, makes our pH a more acid pH, which promotes inflammations. Inflammations promote chronic degenerative diseases, metabolic diseases, and cancers. This is science, everyone knows it. So we should combine this idea of promotion and production of this food with the science, with what science keeps saying for many years, that is whole food. And here in Sicily we can say a lot about the ancient grains, but the use of food such as almonds, which compared to the rest of nuts as a fundamental feature, because almond is alkalinizing, and it's the only exception in nuts. I have two advantages. One, I can take proteins, minerals, calcium, which can replace animal calcium. And personally, I've chosen a vegetable diet, so I'm in favor of the introduction of minerals, especially calcium, which have a vegetable origin rather than animal origin, because they are more available than the animal. And almonds, in 100 grams of almonds, there are almost 250 to 280 milligrams of calcium. If we compare it with an average cheese, it is almost the same amount. The difference is that this is absorbed in a different way. So almond compared to pistachios, hazelnuts, walnuts, and so on, which are good, has an extra power. It is acidifying, it depurates us, and this contributes to that which we call the deacidifying diet, the whole diet, which must be the focus of today, because we are going towards an hyperacidification. Another feature is the fact that almond can be a complete ingredient, a complete food. And I give you a piece of news which I don't know if in Palermo or in Sicily you know. Some years ago, a study was carried out, very small study, on almost 10 newborn children who were allergic to the proteins of cow milk and the substitutes of cow milk, so they were allergic to everything. The only milk they could drink was the donkey milk.
Siccome io l'ho contagiato sulla fissazione della mandorla, allora lui ha voluto ulteriormente verificare.
So together with Professor Francesco Bonina from the University of Catania, we carried out this study together with the producer of organic almonds. We prepared a product in which we only added something based on apple to enrich it with omega-3. So we gave this product to newborn children who just had this food for some months, and they had for 6 months they had a normal growth. So this demonstrates that almond has great properties, nutritional properties, and almond also has an enzyme which helps the digestion of starch and This moonsign helps us in the digestion of starch, and it is very appropriate to be used together with bread, pasta, and so on. In fact, in Palermo, some productions of bread or pasta were made with almond flour, and it made this food very digestible. Of course, we are talking about ancient grains. The properties of almond in terms of reduction of cholesterol, in terms of reduction of triglycerides. So, for example, a patient who has a food hypercholesterolemia, because today when the patient come to me and say, my cholesterol, okay, I have a high cholesterol, but it is a familiar cholesterol. Well, this is not true. It's your habit to eat some food which is family. So it's not the cholesterol which is familiar. So they realize this when they correct their diet, and so they correct the habit to eat cheeses every day. So this reduces the presence of cholesterol in blood. By eating 20 almonds a day, they reduce cholesterol. So before statins, I give almond. I don't give statins anyway, so I give almond. I use statin, unfortunately, and I believe this is like my condemnation. My doctor gave the statins to me. The problem is to see whether it was okay to use the statins. We must be careful. We must be really careful. And the problem is that physicians do not do correct diagnosis many times, because if I give a patient, I prescribe a statin before correcting diet, well, the responsibility is huge. So I also talked to my colleagues about this. In my opinion, the first thing to do is to correct the diet, and then, if necessary, we can talk about drugs. So today everyone will ask you questions, and we will have a private session with you. So, for example, another study, I believe in Italy it is done in Padova by a biologist coming from Sicily on Alzheimer's disease, because almond also contains traces of chrome and some substances which is analyzing all the patients who come to me who are overweight or obese, they tell me, doctor, everyone said I don't have to eat almonds. Well, it's true that almond has a very caloric power, but it has low glycemic index. So today, from a nutritional point of view, this is important. If you have this glycemia index which is low, well, almond becomes a food, a product which can be used, which can be consumed also by those who are obese. And there are some American publications which demonstrate that metabolism is activated by eating almonds. And if you eat almonds, you can also lose weight, of course, if you have a correct diet. So it is alkalinizing, deacidifying. It is very good also for intestine and for nervous system, 10-15 a day. And almond milk, another Sicilian tradition with a special attention. We must respect the Sicilian tradition, but we must remove sugar, otherwise we destroy this great product. So we must eliminate sugar. If I want to add anything, we can add raisins or, I don't know, sugar, cane sugar, brown sugar. If I put white sugar, I destroy all the beneficial properties of this product. Then oil of sweet almonds, and almonds can also be used for external use. And one last thing that I would like to say is that almond becomes a fundamental food in vegetarian and vegan diet, because many recipes in this diet, maybe 80%, have almond as the basis for pies, which are dried rather than cooked. So almond is favorite in this type of diet.
Noi siamo stati
Scusate, è un momento importante, così l'interprete si rilassa un attimo, perché è lo scrutino del dottore.
Magari queste sono
This is a snack.
Preparati,
This is the snack.
ci vogliono educare subito.
They want to educate us.
E Vincenzo, tu vai subito. Prendine 30.
Okay, thank you. We can continue.
la voce del medica sia molto importante.
So I believe that the speech by the doctor was very important.
E non ti sentiamo un attimo, c'è ancora un po' di rumore di fondo.
Distribuzione, grazie.
Prego.
Dicevo, ringraziamo il dottore Marmelli per la collaborazione. Credo che la parte medica, l'aspetto medico della frutta secca sia molto...
So this presentation was very important. I'd like to add almond fascinates us because peeled almond is very attractive because it gives us the idea of the crunchy feel, and it's very fascinating. But I recommend you to eat the famous 20 almonds with the peel, with the skin, because in the skin there is almost 50% of polyphenols. We know that polyphenols are very important for our health. So now I give the floor to Mr. Calogero Liotta from the Archaeological Park of Valle dei Templi, who's going to talk about the Museum of Almond, Francesco Monastra. My colleague is going to talk about the first part. So Mrs. Ala from the Department of forestry sciences in the University of Palermo. Just an introduction on the landscape of La Valle dei Templi, where almond is the protagonist. It is a cultural landscape because it shows the relationship which the man has established with nature. And almond trees have been grown together with olive trees, which have shapes, extraordinary shapes and sizes, so that they are called monumental trees. It is the so-called wood of almond and olive trees which Luigi Pirandello mentions in Vecchie e Giovani book, so it is a very famous landscape. In spite of the sad news of illegal construction, Valle dei Templi is a landscape which has been conserved very well. It is it is a diverse culture in which almond and olive trees coexist, and the travelers of the Grand Tour between the end of the 18th century and 19th centuries were very fascinated by the fertility and image of this landscape rather than by the ruins, the archaeological ruins. So until the 50s, the 60s, almond trees accounted for 700, 800 per hectare, whereas now we have only 70, 80 trees per hectare in the Valle dei Templi. What does this mean? This means loss, genetic erosion, but it also means a big damage to beauty, to the aesthetics, to the value of this beautiful place, which is heritage of humanity. There are many quotations by the travelers of the Grand Tour that show the beauty of this landscape. First of all, the beauty of Greek temples, but before this, the abundance and the importance, the beauty of the landscape. Goethe, maybe. Goethe stays in Agrigento between 24th and 27th April 1787, and he leaves important quotations also from a scientific point of view about the growing of some species. To testimony the beauty of this landscape, we have some quotations. This is a quotation of 1881. The view is wonderful. It is second only to the landscape of Taormina. Almond tree is a multifunctional species, but the landscapes of traditional agriculture, the agrarian agricultural landscapes of the tradition are multifunctional. To save them, given what happened in the last 50 years, we must focus on their multifunctionality. In particular, for almond trees, if we look at the productive functions, we can we can eat the fruit as a whole before the shell becomes hard for the production of many sweets, for cosmetics, for pharmaceutics, and there are many environmental functions which are very important. Almond groves protect the soil, defend the soil, protect the cycle of water. They preserve biodiversity and reduce carbon. And of course, there are also cultural functions. aesthetic and ethical functions because it flowers in winter, and so it fits the meat of land of the south with several colors going from white to pink, and the flowering can last many months. There is a strong connection between these species, which is very productive and very beautiful. It has a great aesthetic value with the archaeological ruins. Maybe we can not think of Greek monuments of Valle dei Templi without the presence of these species. First of all, the almond tree, but also the other species, the carob tree, the monumental olive trees. So it's a great connection. And I was saying that from 700, 800 almond tree per hectare, now we have 70, 80 almond trees per hectare for several reasons, but because of the abandonment of the lands which were expropriated because they are in an archaeological land, so the abandonment by growers, by farmers, had a big impact. And then there is also the death of trees which were too old, and so an important initiative is the one of the Museum of Almond Tree, which was dedicated to Francesco Monastra, a great expert of these species. So it was a program started in 1997 together with the Department of Agriculture, the SOAT, first of all, the University of Palermo, and at that time there was no Parco della Valle dei Templi as a function that manages the whole valley, but there was the superintendency and the regional province of Agrigento. So the idea to establish a museum of almond was established. Afterwards, with the action of the Parco della Valle dei Templi, together with the Department of Agriculture in Palermo, a project was carried out, and so the creation of the germplasm laboratory, and there was the creation not only of the Museum of Almond, but Museum of dried products and nuts. A future A future idea is to develop the Museum of Landscape, which we are trying to develop. Here we can see a representation, an image of Valle dei Templi. You see the Museum of Almond, where it is located. Temples are in a line. For those who don't know them, we have the Temple of Juno, the Temple of Concordia, the Temple of Hercule, and here the area of the Temple of Jove. This is an image of the first years when the museum was founded. What you see at the trees which were planted, and then we have the so-called Casa Fiantacre, which is a rural house of the end of the 19th century. So you can see the condition of this house. Whereas with the laboratory of germplasm, we recovered only this part of the building. It was renovated, and now it should work as a laboratory of germplasm. Unfortunately, we had some delays, but there is also another project, a project of the Parco, together with the University of Palermo, and in this sense, the presence of Mrs. Ala, who's been working in the Museum of Almond. She had a research grant funded by the Parco, but it was made at the University of Palermo. This is the area of the museum, which has been founded trying to respect the features of a fruit grove, an almond grove. Why am I saying this? Because there where you see the black dots, there are other species. Inside, we introduced also olive trees, fig trees, and many other trees, just like in the countryside, because as we said earlier, the landscape of the Valle is a unique landscape, and maybe it is only one of the few landscapes which has not disappeared from the so-called rural landscape of dried fruit in Sicily. So almond trees were not removed to establish an extensive harvest. So it's a luck that we still have all these different trees, and within some old houses, ancient houses, there is the so-called Mediterranean gardens, in which there are the fruit trees which are necessary for the family. This is just an example of the actions we have performed. We have the different varieties, the Cavallera, and so on. This is a picture of a work we carried out last year during the summer. These are the different varieties of the museum. You cannot see them very well, but in every bag there is the name of the variety. Some samples were collected, they were dried, and there will be a permanent exhibition of these. Just 1 minute on the names which are given to the different varieties, names which can be related to the feature of the shell, the shape of the fruit, the feature of the seed, the spread. In fact, you see different names: Aragonese from Aragona, Casteltermini, Romana, Canicatinenza, the name of the owner, or references on how they were used. This is what we have, what we plan to do. So what we plan to do with conservation initiatives and several studies. The aim of the museum is to strengthen the studies on the genetic diversity of the almond, and to contribute to the safeguard and the enhancement of the landscape. We would like to establish some itineraries within the museum to allow for a visit to those who are not expert in the field and those who cannot see the differences among the different species. And so the exhibition, iconography, this is what we plan to do in the museum. This is a typical suite of Agrigento, the lamb, the Easter lamb, which combines the nuts, almond and pistachio, and in this regard, there is an old saying in Favara, that is, there is no lamb if there is no pollara. Pullara is a type of almond of our area, which has an organoleptic feature, which is different. So along the years, it was tested in this sense. I conclude. Unfortunately, there is also the rendering, because well, now we're going to the bio-Mediterranean cluster. Unfortunately, we had problems in the shipping. This is our totem. In this, there will be more than 50 varieties of almonds, which will stay there permanently. They were supposed to be inaugurated yesterday, but it seems that they haven't arrived. They haven't been shipped. But they should be here until 31st of October in the bio-Mediterranean cluster. So you could see them at the bio cluster. Thank you, Mr. Liotta. Just one thing, nut is good for as a snack, but later we will see it in the form of bakery and sweets. Some women of the Mediterranean area will offer these sweets based on nuts, because this is one of the elements which unites all of us. And Mr. Liotta, so this workshop is aimed at developing further ideas and insights. We hope that this effort will become a tool to promote the whole chain, and so producers will be protagonists also in the design of the museum and in the design of the shops. Yes, maybe we didn't say this in the presentation. One of the main ideas is to put the germoplasm at disposal of university researchers, students. Thank you. So, Parco Archeologico Archeological Park Valle dei Templi is a World Heritage of UNESCO. So this wonderful site is in Sicily. And now I give the floor to Mr. Ignasi Bastle from IRTA Mas Bobereus, Spain. My Spanish is not great. Anyway, in regard to the perspectives of the Mediterranean basin. Thank you. I would like to thank the Sicilian region for the invitation, but I don't speak Italian very well, so I'm going to speak English. Penso di essere l'ultimo o il penultimo, non lo so, e comunque vorrei dire qualcosa sulla frutta secca mediterranea. Do una panoramica, ho una serie di slide, alcune le tralascerò. Comunque vorrei dire qualcosa del contesto mediterraneo. Mi concentrerò su 4 tipi e parlerò della situazione. Non c'è il puntatore. Il puntatore. Poi parlerò del settore della frutta secca e sul contesto di ricerca e sviluppo. Come possiamo vedere, il settore della frutta secca sta crescendo nel bacino mediterraneo grazie al notevole aumento nella domanda e la consapevolezza sulla salute dei consumatori. E quindi il mercato della frutta secca è sempre più importante e globalizzato, e il settore organizzato e strutturato, e i modelli di produzione tradizionale e moderna coesistono, e il settore della frutta secca e il commercio sono forti e competitivi nella maggior parte dei nostri paesi. I quattro frutti di cui parlo mostrano somiglianze e differenze. Mandorla al momento è sottoposta ad un miglioramento tecnologico in Spagna. 5.000 ettari all'anno vengono piantati e c'è maggiore potenziale in Turchia, ci sono enormi progetti di irrigazione. Poi la nocciola, la produzione è guidata dalla Turchia, seguita dall'Italia. La produzione tradizionale sta evolvendo e ci sono nuovi sviluppi a livello mondiale. Mi concentro sui paesi mediterranei. Un pistacchio sta aumentando il proprio potenziale in Turchia, e anche nelle mandorle ci sono molti progetti di irrigazione, e ci sono alcune nuove aree di produzione in Spagna, e la noce è in sviluppo in molti paesi, però ci sono degli alberi di qualità molto costosi. E questa è la superficie dei mandorli in tutto il mondo. Vediamo che la superficie è ampia anche se la produzione è più bassa. Qui vediamo un esempio del mondo che produce di più, perché i leader è la California negli Stati Uniti, poi abbiamo Australia e Spagna che seguono. Questa è la superficie delle mandorle e la produzione. La superficie è concentrata nei paesi mediterranei, mentre la produzione è concentrata soprattutto in California ed anche in Australia ora. Questo è il problema che ha modificato il mondo della frutta secca negli ultimi anni riguardo alle mandorle. Questa è la domanda di mandorle e l'offerta. Quindi nel 2013 le cose sono cambiate, c'è più domanda e più offerta, quindi i prezzi stanno volando. E vediamo perché i prezzi sono guidati dalla produzione statunitense. La California e l'Australia hanno aperto ampi mercati e utilizzi a livello mondiale. Abbiamo già parlato della Cina e dell'India, e la domanda di mandorle a livello mondiale è aumentata, e questa ha superato l'offerta nel 2013. Queste sono le cifre che hanno in mente i coltivatori, quindi l'aumento del prezzo della mandorla da 3 euro al chilo a 8 euro al chilo, e i ritorni nei frutteti, nei mandorleti, quindi vedete da 2.000 kg per ettari possiamo arrivare a 6.000 euro per ettari, a 16.000 per ettari. E quindi questo è il principale problema riguardo alle mandorle ora. E oltre alle mandorle anche gli altri tipi di frutta secca hanno avuto questo aumento dei prezzi simile. Per quanto riguarda il contesto della produzione, quindi c'è una produzione enorme, e c'è la siccità che sta riducendo la produzione in California e in Australia, e quindi sta portando ad un aumento dei prezzi, e quindi la siccità è stata un grande problema. Ora abbiamo anche nuove varietà in fioritura, nuove cultivar che hanno avuto un impatto forte nella regione del Mediterraneo, e quindi fioriscono 1 mese, 2 mesi più tardi rispetto alle altre varietà che fioriscono prima. Questa è la superficie riguardo alle nocciole, e è dominata dalla produzione turca. Ora nei paesi mediterranei i paesi mediterranei guidano la produzione mondiale, quindi questa è un po' la crescita della produzione negli ultimi anni. Questi sono i principali paesi: la Turchia al primo posto, poi altri paesi, Italia, dietro l'Italia la Spagna, Stati Uniti, Oregon, e questa è la superficie e la produzione riguardo alle nocciole. Questo è il contesto. I prezzi mondiali sono guidati dalla produzione turca, quindi i prezzi dipendono dalla produzione turca ogni anno. La tecnologia, una nuova tecnologia è necessaria, ma si evolve lentamente. Ci sono nuove aree di coltivazione che si sviluppano lentamente nelle regioni del nord del Mediterraneo. La Georgia e la Moldavia creeranno nuove aree coltivate. Per quanto riguarda il pistacchio, qui vediamo la differenza tra i vari paesi, e questa è la produzione guidata dall'Iran, ed ora anche la California sta raggiungendo l'Iran, ma queste cifre sono cifre della FAO, sono un po' vecchie. E poi abbiamo qui la superficie, la produzione di pistacchio, quindi la situazione mondiale, il contesto pistacchio. I prezzi mondiali sono guidati dalla produzione dell'Iran e degli Stati Uniti. In Turchia ci sono molti potenziali di piantagioni in aree irrigate. In Spagna
Spain mainly. Then needed large production technology development, improvement of crop management to avoid aflatoxins. This is a big issue. Fair commercial prospects due to increasing consumption, and large possibilities of nut industrialization. A lot of production in Europe is sold as snacks, but there are some interesting industrial possibilities. So this is walnut, the Mediterranean countries, the total world. Again, production, Mediterranean countries and the world. And this here is the main producing countries, led by China. Then is other countries, and then the States and Mexico and some others. This is the walnut surface and production. A bit how is the cake? The cake is divided, and this is the walnut surface. Probably is already done. This one. This is walnut. This is repeated somehow. Sorry. So the walnut context, market driven by major producers worldwide, which is China, Iran, and California. Technological production level is good in the Mediterranean. Developing potential is limited by high crop requirements. So we cannot plant walnuts in any kind of soil, and we need good soils and water availability. And first and highly reputed health claims in walnut. Actually, health claims on nuts started with walnut. And if we want to make an overall view of the nut sector, we have to say that major producers worldwide for each crop we have. Mediterranean is very good on hazelnut because Turkey is a huge producer. Then, due to the increasing returns per surface, there is large interest of growers and investors in establishing new orchards. We have seen in Sicily, for example, the number of growers which are now starting new plantings on almond. Irrigated versus rain-fed orchards, this is the big issue in all the Mediterranean region because the water availability is limited. So regulated deficit irrigation is a major breakthrough for increasing production. We have to irrigate the trees and any of these species when it is needed, and we can make a big profit of the available water. Production sector needs technological advice to implement and manage new planting projects. Production can be fully mechanized in any of these crops. Aflatoxins issues needing improved crop management and post-harvest technology. And the industrial sectors needs more innovative technology. And the climatic change is a global warming, is a threat or a new opportunity. And finally, this is the last slide. Research and development in most Mediterranean countries is stagnant, so we we are having, as a researcher, very limited amount of money to work. Innovation in almond is we are producing new cultivars and rootstocks, and crop technology is based on Spain now. Limited innovation on hazelnut worldwide. Innovation in pistachio and walnut plant material and crop technology is depending from California, from the USA. And production sector should be involved in research and development through implementing levy models like in Australia or California. And this is my final slide. Thank you very much.
And now we have the general manager of the department to productive activities, Alessandro Ferrara. We have almost concluded. We have Mr. Tornabene is responsible for our clusters in the productive districts. After the speech by we must all follow Mrs. Ferguson because the data and proportions between production and services are really incredible. It is difficult to see such a ratio in the comparison among countries. Thank you, Mr. Battle, because it will be very useful in the works which will be carried out in Sicily. So maybe we will invite you again. So we can conclude with Mr. Ferrandello, who's the manager for development, rural development and multifunctionality. This project on almond was launched also thanks to him and thanks to Rosaria Barresi, who is councillor now. So I give the floor to him for the conclusions. First of all, thank you. I'd like to thank all the speakers of this roundtable, of this workshop, who have given us many precious inputs, which will be included in the next PSR, which is going to be approved. Many discussions, many ideas will be included, will be used when we write the provisions, the measures of the new PSR. I would like to thank Mrs. Stassi, who come from my same town. We are small communities inside Sicily. Sicily is very diverse, and as a communities coming from different areas. So as I said, we have the new PSR which is going to be approved. We are focusing a lot on the development of nuts, on the production, diversification, landscape, rural landscape, etc. We are focusing a lot on the new PSR, and so the almond growing is one of the sectors which can bring a lot of wealth in our rural territories, not only for all that can for all that goes from the processing of almond to the production of sweets and other products. The new plan, the new program as the classical measures of the old program for the companies for the qualification of the product, but it focuses a lot on innovation. We have measures focusing on innovation of processes and products, not only innovation in the field, in the agronomic field. We must search for new paradigms for innovation to extend them to other sectors. And one of these measures is the constitution of PEI, which is the European Partnership for Innovation. Local groups transfer knowledge, groups in which the actors are the producers and those who process these products together with universities to transfer knowledge starting from the needs of the territories and the farmers. So we have many other measures which stimulate cooperation, which unfortunately is one of our constraints, one of our limits, the concentration of the supply, the aggregation of producers. So these are the most innovative measures. Together with the classical and traditional measures, we have new measures. And the PARCO has always been involved. I'd like to say another thing. We have already implemented a law to safeguard biodiversity, and we have already worked in order to create an online catalog of biodiversity, Sicilian biodiversity, not only vegetables but also animal biodiversities. I'm not adding more because now we have to go to the cluster. The Department for Agriculture contributes every day because we approve all operational products in order to improve this sector. So for 2 months, Sicily will be represented in every territory. The GAL is going to promote the agricultural production and that which every rural territory of Sicily can express and can provide to tourists in order to be more attractive. Thank you again. We hope that in November the collaboration could become more fruitful. This subject for us is so important, so we must do an integrated journey together. We must collaborate so that the nut sector can become for our rural sectors and for our economy an important strength. Thank you again. I'm Professor Ferguson and Mr. Battle. Our innovation and research programs provides collaboration with third countries. So we invite you from now to develop together a project, an initiative on the innovation on nuts, which we could present in the European programs on innovation and research. We will be pleased to have you as partners. We will send you as soon as possible some specific proposals. Before concluding, I would like to thank all participants. I believe that today the roundtable was very rich, was very important from a scientific and technical point of view. I am the spokesperson of a project idea, which could be the one to meet again soon, but without time constraints. So maybe we can have a whole day. So the speeches which have been given, the presentation which have been given quite quickly, I believe they deserve especially for our foreign speakers. They deserve a deep analysis and exchange of ideas. This is a wish. I hope that there could be an exchange of ideas and information. We have a lot to learn, and I believe that beyond a technique, the evolution of the technique, I believe that tradition is always at the basis. So technique, innovation, and tradition must work together. So we will meet again soon to discuss these topics. Please follow us. Cluster. Thank you.
A pranzare,